Hello, class. Just kind of piggybacking on the last PowerPoint, we did civil law. Civil law means that you are suing somebody. Um, that's a person against a person or a person suing the government. So the defendant is usually bringing the crime to the state when it comes to suing somebody, charging them for money. A criminal law is the state is charging them with a violation of maybe the laws that have been created or against the Constitution that was created, whether it be state or federal. So when we talk about criminal law, it defines criminal acts, spells the punishments out for them. The government charges a person for the violation of this crime. So they violated the Constitution in that state or the United States Constitution. The government is always the prosecutor and the defendant is always being the person charged. Crime is an act that breaks the law and harms someone or society. Not doing something can also be defined as a crime. Not reporting child abuse, lying for your friend if you are a witness. Our criminal justice system consists of the courts, state and federal. Okay, courts, judges, lawyers, police, prisons, and these people are all responsible for enforcing the criminal law in their state or in the nation. There is a separate juvenile system for people under the age of 18, and they have specific rules and laws for handling people that are under 18 that are going to be tried as not tried as adults. Three different classifications of crimes on three different levels. We have petty offenses being the most minor, misdemeanors, and then felonies. Let's get started in the petty offenses. These are minor crimes. Many of us may have seen our parents do them or have done them accidentally ourselves. Parking illegally, which I used to do all the time in college, by accident. Okay, you have the wrong sticker on the back of your car. You're getting a parking ticket. You're going to pay a fine, citation. Littering, disturbing the peace, minor trespassing, and speeding are all examples of petty offenses. Usually they're just going to end up as a citation ticket. If you pay the fine, you'll be good, but if you don't pay the fine, they can topple on each other and it can be turned into a misdemeanor. A misdemeanor is the next one. This is the second level of the crime. It represents a crime and was more serious, such as vandalism, stealing expensive items, writing bad checks for modest amounts, and being drunk and disorderly. Punishments are hefty fines or jail sentence under a year. If you notice, we have some bold writing here. These things could be on your exam. Just a little heads up. If the person has committed a serious misdemeanor or committed the same crime more than once, like I said, it can be bumped up to a felony. Felonies, this is the worst, most severe type of crime that we have in the United States of America. These are burglary, kidnapping, arson, lighting things on fire, rape, fraud, pretending to be somebody, stealing a social security number, okay? Forgery, murder, or manslaughter. Manslaughter, make sure that you know, is different from murder. Manslaughter could be anything from reckless driving or in the heat of the moment. It's different things like that could be considered manslaughter and not murder. Punishment is imprisonment for more than 1 year. For murder, the punishment can be death, depending on which state you're in. And it is known as capital punishment. And capital, kind of a interesting kind of side note here, capital came from the term decapitated when that would be the penalty for murder centuries ago. If you are a felon, you lose the basic right to vote. You cannot possess firearms anymore, and you cannot serve on a jury, as well as becoming any of these professions that you see on the bottom. Lawyers, teachers, policemen, or those who serve in the military, any civil job you're not really going to get to do. If it wasn't the coronavirus era, I'd have you ask some questions. I'd bring a police officer in, he'd talk to you guys, but we don't have these. Some steps in criminal cases: investigation and arrest, the initial appearance, preliminary hearing, or grand jury, whatever one warrants it, plea bargaining, arraignment and pleas, the trial decision, and then finally, you're going to get the sentence. So in a criminal case, we have investigation and arrest. The police will gather evidence, convince a judge for a search warrant, or to arrest a suspect based on good evidence. Then they can get an arrest warrant, the alleged crime, crime or crimes, and then they'll go out and get that person. Or if the police catch you in the act of the crime, they can arrest you too. In certain circumstances, it is enough if the police have responsible suspicion, that was beyond a reasonable doubt, upon probable cause. Okay, that Fourth Amendment, that search and seizure amendment, the police know that the person, or sense the person has broken the law, then they can also detain you and search your car, so on and so forth, based on probable cause. After you've been arrested, there will be an initial appearance. So the arrest suspect will see the judge within 24 hours. You will be thrown in a preliminary holding cell, and then within 24 hours, you will see a judge. They will then read their rights. They will be read their rights, and they will be entered into a plea. Okay, you can choose three things. Number one, you can choose guilty. If you choose guilty, the judge decides the penalty. Okay, you can choose not guilty. Then the date is set for the trial. Okay, or I'm sorry, two different things: guilty or not guilty. Felons may not enter a plea in some cases. Okay, depending on if it's murder. The defendant then may be released if the judge believes that person is of good risk to return to their court hearing. He does or she does not believe, then they will not be given bail. Okay, or I'm sorry, they will be given bail if they believe that they cannot or will not return to the trial. They will be given bail, meaning that they'll have to pay up, okay, to get out of jail before the court hearing. So sometimes they will not be given bail if it's thing like a murder or so on and so forth. They will be given bail if they believe that they're going to be a hard person to return, okay, depending on the severity of their crime. After that, the guilty or not guilty thing, the case then goes to a grand jury. All right, determines if there's enough evidence to hand the suspect an indictment or charge or formal criminal charge. An attorney may be present but cannot defend the defendant during these proceedings, being closed doors. Then it will go to a preliminary hearing. Lawyers presents evidence and gets the judge to move on to the next step of the case. If there's not, the charges are dropped. The lawyers may petition to take it to a grand jury if charges are dropped. So a grand jury will go over the evidence, investigate everything. Like I said, the Jerry Sandusky trial, grand jury investigated him. They got witnesses. They brought it to a judge. They finally went out and arrested him, brought him back. They read him, told him what he was convicted of. He was thrown in there. He was given bail because of the severity of the crime. And then he paid the bail, got out so he can build a case against himself. Okay? So that's kind of the steps that happen. 90% of all cases never even go to a jury trial. Many of them, majority of them, 90% of them end up in what we call a plea bargain. If we were to watch A Few Good Men, what you would see is that Tom Cruise, he is the best lawyer because he has successfully plea bargained a large majority of cases that he has defended his clients. So he's never really even been in a courtroom. That's what the whole movie is about. The lawyer, judge, and government can come to an agreement of a plea if the defendant is guilty. The government will charge the defendant with a lesser crime and it will not go to court and to keep them from going to court and so on and so forth. So they'll offer him a plea bargain. Maybe instead of 5 years, they'll give him 2.5 years, plus you pay this fine, plus house arrest. And sometimes that seems like a better deal than actually going to court, maybe going to jail for 5 to maybe 10 years if you're guilty. Okay, so a lot of people take the plea bargain. If you do not accept a plea bargain, after you are charged by the grand jury, the judge reads the charges, who is represented by the attorney. The criminal then has 3 choices. You can be not guilty by reason of insanity, or guilty, and you choose one of those. If you are guilty by reason of insanity, you have to have proof, doctor, so on and so forth. The trial then proceeds, okay? So if you say you're not guilty, then there will be a trial that is held. If there's no plea bargain, is not guilty, a trial will ensue. And you would see, if you were going to watch A Few Good Men, they would offer them a plea bargain. The soldiers don't want to take it. They want to go to trial, so on and so forth. Felons have a choice of a bench trial before the judge only, or a jury trial. So you don't have to be tried in front of a jury, but if it's of a serious crime and you want to have a fair trial, majority of the time it's going to be a jury trial. Judges are more likely to find the defendant guilty than jury trials. A petite jury is a group of 6 to 12 people within that district's jurisdiction who hear evidence. Chosen by each side attorneys, the trial begins and prosecution presents the case. Witnesses are called and evidence is submitted and brought up. The defendant, does not have to go up to be examined. Okay, you do not have to be a witness against yourself. It's in our amendments, the 6th Amendment. Okay, closing statements are made by attorneys to sum up the case. Once both sides are presented, there will be a verdict. This is the last step in decision by the jury. The judge will drill the jury on legal procedures and how they must judge the case. So they'll go in a procession, and they'll go in, and the judge will kind of do this with the jury after they've heard all the evidence. Then the judge steps out. A foreperson is selected to lead the jury, and the jurors discuss their decisions in secret. All right. To find guilt, the jury must find evidence, which will be drilled to them by the judge, beyond a reasonable doubt. This person is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. There is no possible way that he can't be or she can't be guilty. If this is the case and they are guilty and without a reasonable doubt, they will be given the sentence. If they are not, they're not 100% sure. That's all it does. There might be a possibility that they're not guilty. I don't know. This didn't fit him, or he had an alibi or she had an alibi. Then technically they should not be guilty. Usually most criminal cases end with a unanimous decision on the verdict, going one way or another. If not, then the jury may be a hung jury and a new trial with a different jury may be scheduled. Okay, so if it's a hung jury, like a 50-50 or a 6-5, okay, or a 7-5 jury, it's called a hung jury. And then a different jury may be scheduled or an appeal may be scheduled, okay, depending on the evidence in the trial or the people on the jury. If the verdict is not guilty, the defendant is released immediately. If the verdict is guilty, the judge determines the sentence. Sentence can include fines, time in prison, community service, or possible death penalty, depending on the state. The law has minimum and maximum sentences for specific crimes. This is pretty crazy. If you look in your books in this chapter on the criminal law, was something known as a 3 strikes law in California. And a guy by the name of Gary Ewing stole 3 golf clubs at 3 different times, and they sentenced him 25 to life because he kept stealing golf clubs and he kept committing the same crime. So he was given 25 years of life for stealing golf clubs 3 times in a row. And the Supreme Court, it actually went to the Supreme Court, and he upheld as constitutional when it was appealed. And it's known now as the 3 strikes law. So don't continue to keep committing the same crime over and over again. All right. That's that. What you're going to do now is I want you to kind of get yourselves into the kind of figuring out what a criminal trial was, or how they have gone, or what is a criminal act. So what's not better than to look at some of the worst criminal cases in the history of the United States of America. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to go to this website, fbi.gov/history/famous-cases. And you're going to see a bunch of famous FBI cases. Look around, read some of them, and choose which one that you want to do, which one's both best for you. And what you're going to do is you can go to pages, you can use a document, whatever you want to do. You're going to create a poster on the criminal case that you choose. A couple of requirements here. It's 18 total points. You need a title. Under your title, put the name. So say you're doing Bonnie and Clyde. Bonnie and Clyde would have to be at the top. Underneath Bonnie and Clyde, by Mr. Stauffer. You then can copy and paste a picture in there. This has to be appropriate. It can't be the Black Dahlia and a body of a murdered person on there or mangled. These pictures have to be appropriate. I know this is going to be difficult if you can't find something. So if you're doing Bonnie and Clyde, maybe you could put a picture of them just standing together, with their guns or in front of the car. Try not to put the people that are deceased on there, so on and so forth. You guys understand where I'm coming from. If you can't find any appropriate picture, put a picture of evidence from the case or a seal of the FBI. This is 3 points. And then the write-up. Now, the write-up can be, in a sense, exactly what happened, okay? So even though I don't want you to picture on there, you can tell me kind of exactly what happened in the write-up. Explain exactly what happened during the case. A, the first paragraph should be the people involved. Explain who the characters are, who the investigators were in these crimes. B, what were the crimes committed? Bonnie and Clyde committed a bunch of them. And then C, this should be a minimum of 2 paragraphs. And then the third paragraph on that sheet should be the end result. What was the end result of the case? And explain this. I will post a picture of an example of what this should look like. This is 18 total points. The end result should happen. This is what it's all about. So you're basically giving me the case in A and B, and then the third paragraph is the end result and what the verdict was, if they were ever caught, if maybe they were never caught, maybe it's still a cold case. Okay, we still don't know who JFK's, technically it was committed, that Lee Harvey Oswald shot him, but nobody really knows, so it's a cold case. It's called a cold case. It hasn't been solved. All right, guys, that's it for the day. I hope you enjoyed the criminal charges. and get your FBI posters into me. Have a good day.